This is Analytics with Asa, hosted on the FF Faceoff YouTube channel. Today we are joined by FF Faceoff's own Pete Nova. Pete, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. It's Thursday, getting ready for the weekend. Got to recharge my batteries. Had a long last few weeks, but feeling good, man.
Awesome. So, over the course of this entire series, we've talked a lot about music and rock bands and stuff like that. But today might be the most important question of all of that. And so we are here to talk about AFC West content. But first, I want to ask you this, Pete. Who is the greatest singer of all time and why?
I feel like I really like Frank Sinatra. This is a question that kind of, I mean, you can get so many different answers. It's music. The beautiful thing is it's so much about it's about taste, right? Like, some people love rap, right? And some people like alternative. Some people love country. Some people hate country music, right? But some people have beautiful voices in country music. But Sinatra has always been a guy that like reminds me of my family, reminds me, I'm Italian, right? Like my family's from New York. So for me, it always kind of just brings back my childhood, and his music is timeless. Like I feel like I could listen to, like, we could be here in, I don't know, when we grow old and it's like, like 2080 and he's music's like 100 years old by then. And I still feel like people will still be trying to, grab sound bites off of it to make it into new music with what they have going on. I don't know. There's something about his charm, his kind of like ability to kind of add emotion to it as well in like this classy way. I don't know. He's always had a really awesome vibe, and so yeah, I think Frank Sinatra would be my pick if I had to.
No, I think that's a great answer. I've always been a big fan of that, like, late 40s, early 50s New York crooner era. Probably my favorite of that group is Tony Bennett. I think he's just a really cool guy. And I was a big Goodfellas fan as a kid. And so hearing like Rags to Riches was always a big thing for me. But
Sure.
I think of all the singers, probably my personal favorite and the one who I would argue is the best singer of all time is going to be Stevie Wonder. And the reason I make this case is a specific moment in a documentary I watched recently of We Are the World, which was the moment in the 80s where a lot of famous celebrities came together and sang their songs. And the moment to me that really stood out the most was the fact that Bob Dylan was one of those singers. And for those of you who know Bob Dylan, he has a very, very distinct voice that is not known for being soothing to the ear unless you already like Bob Dylan. And he was very nervous about singing his one part of the We Are the World song. And so Stevie Wonder sang in a Bob Dylan impression to teach Bob Dylan how to sing like Bob Dylan. And that to me just speaks to his vocal talent. And aside from that, he has so many timeless albums, really, really good singer. But this was a good combo so far.
Yeah, I like Stevie Wonder as well, man. I feel like he doesn't get enough credit. I know, I feel like you see like Family Guy references for like Stevie Wonder, right, with the glasses on and stuff, and like, but like it is crazy, like, regardless of the talents that he had vocally and be able to play the piano and stuff, he was also blind, which was like, an insane combination, and to be that talented too. It's one of those things where they always say your senses, when you lose a sense, your other senses are heightened. So I wonder how that impacted him being blind, like, with the vocals, or maybe just like his hearing on certain things and the ability to hear, maybe was that extra lift for him to tweak certain things vocally and from being a pianist standpoint. So yeah, I think that's a great pick.
Awesome. So today we're here to discuss AFC West content, which is maybe not quite as important as singers. Maybe it's more important. It depends on the type of fan you are. But I want to ask you this first. There was a lot that happened in this whole free agency period over the course of this time with this division. But over the course of all of that, what would you say is like a general summary of what's happened so far? And within all of that, what was your favorite move that an AFC West team made so far?
Yeah, so I feel like the Raiders dragged their feet a little bit, swung and missed on a couple of guys. I thought they were going to do a little bit more, but for them, their big acquisition was Pete Carroll, right? Like that was like, a lot of people were kind of hot and cold. I wasn't like super jazzed about it. A guy his age taking over in a rebuild, but this is a team that needs a culture setter and needs somebody to kind of get in there and truly uproot the issues that this team has so deeply rooted in the organization. So I feel like the Raiders were kind of, not too exciting with the moves. The Chargers bringing in Mekhi Becton was a really nice signing. I like that landing spot a lot for him to help out their offensive line and bringing in Najee Harris. The Chiefs were the biggest loser in my opinion. I feel like they were banking on Ronnie Staley possibly, signing with them, but he never hit free agency, and they lost Joe Thuney. They franchised tag Trey Smith, but they're in a tough spot. They really need to hit on the draft, which we'll get into, and I'm excited to kind of talk about them specifically. And then look, Denver brought in Evan Ingram, Hufanga, and Greenlaw on contracts that are pretty team friendly with the guaranteed money, but those guys got to stay healthy. So I think my overall favorite, selfishly for me, was Evan Ingram because I'm excited to see how Peyton deploys him in that Joker role.
Yeah, I think you put it perfectly that there was a lot going on in this total division, but I think there was a lot of teams that made some great moves. I think the Chargers, like you said, Mekhi Becton, getting him was perfect for them because he's not the best pass blocker in the world, but obviously being a John Harbaugh offense, they're really going to, or a Jim Harbaugh offense, they're really going to want to run the ball. And he's one of the best run blocking guards in football right now. And so getting him, I think, is great for their run first type of scheme. Like you said, I think the Broncos getting Evan Ingram was perfect. Dre Greenlaw, I thought, was a great signing as well. They really just got much, much better, and they didn't have to spend a ton to do it. Yeah, the Chiefs, like you said, they're banking a lot on Ronnie Stanley, and things didn't work out. So they ended up paying Jalen Moore 2 years, $30 million, which was a lot of money to give a guy like Jalen Moore, who is not what you would call a dependable tackle. And it just speaks to the fact that tackles get so much money. Even your mid-tier tackles are going to get paid a lot because it's so valuable. And while the Chiefs had a really good guard-center-guard combo last season, the fact that they didn't have a good tackle duo was part of the reason they were unsuccessful in the playoffs when it came to the Super Bowl. But yeah, I think you put it perfectly. So whenever you are ready, I'm good to go team by team.
Cool. Which team did you want to start with?
So we're going to go division losers all the way up. So the Raiders are going to be the first team we'll talk about today. So let's pull up what they have done in free agency. And yeah, the Raiders, like you mentioned, their big acquisition was more so getting a coach than it was actually getting a player. And so we'll kind of see what they've done so far.
Cool.
Let me see. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, the Raiders, they got Jeremy Chin, the safety who's with Carolina a few years ago, Alex Kappa, Eric Stokes, the fast corner out of Green Bay, Raheem Mostert, the ageless wonder, Devin White, taking a flyer on him. Not a whole lot going on aside from the Geno Smith signing or this Geno Smith trade. So given all of that that's happened, do you have a personal favorite moves that the Raiders have made?
I mean, I thought the Alex Kappa one is interesting. He's obviously up there in age, but I think that's a good flyer. Devin White, hard to know what he has left in the tank either. Jeremy Chin's interesting too. I mean, I'm not really excited about Eric Stokes, Raheem Mostert, right? But I think my favorite signing, I would say, is Kappa, just because I'd be curious. I mean, the offensive lineman aged really well, and so he could be a nice stabilizer, for that offensive line.
Yeah. And another big thing that isn't exactly a signing, but it is an extension, is getting Max Crosby locked up, because while it looks like a high price tag, 3 year, $106 million, what happens a few days later after that with Myles Garrett getting extended for $40 million is it makes this move look like an absolute steal. And so I think getting Max Crosby under contract is perfect. And then Geno Smith, I think getting him for a 3rd round pick is good, especially because it's obvious Pete Carroll trusts that man a lot. And so while it is a 3rd round pick you're having to give up, to me, that's still well worth it, because your quarterback situation prior to that was not really looking too great. And so getting Geno, I think, is perfect for them. Roster, I think, got a little bit better, not significantly better, but I think their culture is going to get so much better that I would expect them to be a bit more competitive this season than they were last.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the Max Crosby thing is good. I think Geno Smith, it's more of a win now move, which kind of alludes to the Pete Carroll thing, where it's like, he's an older coach. Does he want to rebuild? So, I mean, unless they have an idea where Geno's deal, right? Well, I don't know. Did they extend Geno? Did they end up getting the extension done yet?
That's a good question.
I don't remember if they had gotten that extension done, but while you take a look, I'll I'll finish my thought. But it kind of just bodes like this is not a win now team in my opinion. So like I don't mind bringing in Geno if they're going to bring him in and extend him with not a ton of guaranteed money, unless they're comfortable, right? Like with him long term, but I don't really see at his age, I would think he's more of a good bridge quarterback. Maybe they take a shot on a guy in this draft in day 2, day 3, maybe the kid out of Syracuse, right? Or maybe swing for next year, which is a more quarterback rich class. Depending on what guarantees. But I mean, if Geno's got a decent amount of guaranteed on that extension, it makes me a little concerned. I'm not a big Shedeur Sanders fan, but I would have thought Shedeur would have been a really good fit, for that offense. He's very similar to Geno, which is ironic because they brought in Geno.
No, exactly. So yeah, they actually have not extended Geno Smith yet. Over the cap projects it around $40 million a year, which seems like the kind of going rate for a quarterback of that caliber. We can kind of apply like the Sam Darnold contract and carry that over. So it'd be something along those lines. But I think that would be fine for Geno, like you mentioned. I think Pete Carroll is a great coach, but he's also up there in age. Well, he does have a lot of energy for being like a late 70s guy. He is a late 70s guy. So it's not someone you can afford to do like a 10-year rebuild with because we don't exactly know how long he's going to be able to coach for that. So given all of that, we can now move on to their depth chart. And they have a lot going on. Jacoby Myers is still their wide receiver 1, which is certainly not a sight that you're wanting to see. They have the absolute superstar in Brock Bowers, their tight end. Geno Smith, their quarterback of the future. Raheem Mostert, I guess for now, is going to be their running back 1, but we may address that in the draft. Offensive line is okay. Jackson Powers-Johnson, I think, is a good center they drafted last season.
Yeah.
Tackle situation's not amazing, but it could be a little bit worse. Aside from that, do you have any notable aspects of the offense that we could address in the NFL draft?
I mean, the obvious answers is obviously wide receiver and running back. This is a great class to need, especially a running back. I would say, from an offensive line standpoint, they were 20th in terms of run blocking grade. So they have some room to improve there. From a pass blocking standpoint, and this is based on PFF, they were actually, in the top third of the league at 13th. So pass blocking wise, they're okay. But yeah, I mean, Jackson Powers-Johnson, you hope takes that next step. I loved him out of Oregon last year. I actually wanted Denver to draft him if they didn't go quarterback. But Colton Miller has progressed pretty well after a slow start to his career. But DJ Glaze, like Dylan Parham, this is also assuming I think Kappa's going to end up taking that starting role. But they could definitely use some help on that interior and maybe bringing in another tackle.
Yeah. And I think that's the case a lot of, I guess, analytics guys make when it comes to drafting a running back early, is that I almost feel like it's a waste of Ashton Genty's career or his contract if you can't get the offensive line situation sorted out by the time he ends up reaching those upper ages and by the time he reaches that extension age. And so, it's Ashton Genty. He's a really, really talented prospect, but I think you can make a case that it's almost upgrading in vain if you're not going to make that offensive line much better. And so we could talk a little more in depth about that once we reach the draft. But for now, let's move on to the defense. Obviously, their defensive line is going to be where most of their strengths come from. Christian Wilkins, their big splash of free agency last season, and then Max Crosby, superstar at the edge defending position. Devin White, I don't know if he's going to start because, we saw that peak with Tampa. He was so good with Tampa for a few years, and then I don't exactly know what happened. It may be personality related. It's really hard to speculate on that, but I think there's definitely some holes that they may have at the cornerback position. Do you have anything we should address in the draft for the defensive spots?
Look, defensive line, could they use some help there? Sure. Christian Wilkins was injured a lot last year. I think Tyree Wilson, has looked solid so far in the NFL. Linebackers are a pretty big hole right now. They lost Robert Spillane. They were like Denver where, they were looking to try to upgrade that linebacker spot. They lost Spillane and didn't really bring anybody in besides Devin White, who didn't really stick with the Eagles last year. So there's, I think for me, linebacker is probably the biggest concern that I have. And then, the cornerback position, Jack Jones came over from New England. He's been solid. If they believe in Eric Stokes, fine. He's a fast corner. I didn't really love him in Green Bay. but they also help bring in Jeremy Chin. So I think corner is definitely a need too. Linebacker and corner are probably the two biggest in my opinion.
Perfect. I think you laid that out perfectly. So next up, we are going to simulate that draft. And let me share the screen here. Perfect. So we're going to keep settings the same as we have in the rest of this series, leaning more towards the public, positional value here, all the settings here. So Raiders are picking at the 6th spot. I want to ask you this first. Are you okay with Geno being our quarterback of the future, or do you think trading up for Shedeur could be a potential plan?
I don't think it's a plan at this point. I don't think they have a high grade on him. I think that's a big reason why they did make the Geno trade.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. All right, so really at this point, if Genty's there, I think you can make a case to take him, but don't really plan on trading up. So if you're cool with it, I'm cool with just kind of simming to our picks, see what happens there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. All right, so what has happened? So the Jags take Will Campbell, Abdul Carter falls to 4, Travis Hunter 3, Shedeur goes 2, and Cam Ward goes 1. So at this point, we can take Genty, we can take Mason Graham if we want to make the defensive line even more terrifying. Ted McMillan could be a potential pick here. There's a lot of guys, or we could trade down. Is there any spot you're leaning more towards?
I mean, the trade down with the Bears makes a lot of sense. I mean, before we start, are we operating as if, what we think they will do or what we think they should do?
So we are operating on what we think they should do. So we can kind of go more based on your personal big board or what you think would be a better plan. I agree with you. I think trading down is going to be good value here because there's so many guys that I like at this spot. There's Tet, Mason Graham, Ashton Genty, and then there's a little bit of a drop off. But I think if one of those guys is still available at the 10th overall spot, I think we really get some value in trading down. So let's see what we can get here. 6, we give up the 6 overall pick for 10 and 39. I think this could be realistic. They do not want that. Kick in 180. Okay, perfect. So we're getting a really high 2nd round pick. We're falling back just 4 spots. We give them like a late 5th round pick. So let's see who goes. And there we go. All right. So I don't know about you. I like Tet a little better than Mason Graham here just because I think there's a lot of overlap between what Christian Wilkins does well and Mason Graham does well. I think Tet could be your X receiver, your number 1 receiver of the future. I think that would work out perfectly for them.
Yeah, I think Tet's fine. I would lean Mason Graham just because if we're operating on what we think they will do, I would personally take Mason Graham here just because while I like Tet, I think there's going to be decent guys in round 2. And this is a deep defensive line class, but I don't know. I love what Mason Graham has done and pairing him up with Christian Wilkins. I know that they're similar skill sets, but I would prefer Mason Graham. But if you like Tet, then let's go Tet. That's fine because the defensive line is pretty deep too.
You're right, but I think you made the case well that at the 37, 39 spot, we can get a guy like Jaden Higgins if he falls. And there's a lot of overlap between Tet and Jaden Higgins. And so that's cool with me. I think Mason Graham also, there's like a very steep drop off between him and the rest of the defensive linemen. And so, I think Mason Graham would be a perfect pick.
All right, let's do it.
All right, I think Tet goes the position after that. All right, and then so Mason Graham was our pick here. And next up, who's been taken? Jack Besh was taken here. Nick Scourton. Luther Burden goes late in the 1st. Let's see what receivers are available. Jaden Higgins at 49. Honestly, we can take him with our next pick if we want to get a little bit risky. But I really like Trey Amos or Savon Ravel here. They're two almost polar opposites in what they do well, in the sense that Trey Amos is much more technique forward guy. Savon Ravel is much more of a really freaky athlete who also has good technique but has some injury concern. And so if we're going to go corner, do you have a preference between either of these two?
I like Amos more. I like what I've seen from him more, so I would probably lean the Amos side on this one.
Let's do it. Then at 39, if Higgins is still there, he is. All right, I think this would be a perfect scenario for them. So for those who aren't aware, Jaden Higgins, 6'4", 215, is a pretty smooth route runner, great at contested catches, good against man, good against zone, almost never drops the ball. He's one of the most complete prospects we have. He's not incredible at anything, but he's so talented and so solid at everything that I think he would be perfect for them here. Yeah. All right, next up, we have the 68 overall spot. There's still going to be some talented guys here. and this is where we could shore up a lot of things. I think Judkins could work, Sampson if you like that better. We really still need a running back, and so it's really your pick between any of these guys, or if you want to go a different position.
I think Judkins makes the most sense because you have Chip Kelly and you have that
Yeah.
relationship there. So I think I would probably say Judkins makes sense. He knows the
Mm-hmm.
system. I don't think Chip's bringing his system from college necessarily, but they have that relationship. And I'm looking at what's available. I love RJ Harvey, but RJ Harvey is likely more of a complementary piece, whereas Judkins can be more of your traditional 3-down back.
Agreed. So Judkins, come on down. Now at 108, there's a lot of routes that we can go, but just to briefly review what we've done so far: Mason Graham, Trey Amos, Jaden Higgins, and Quinshawn Judkins. Now, next up, we could double dip at corner if you would like. There's Will Howard, Jonas Sanker. Aeneas Peoples was a very productive pass rusher. Kobe Bryant, really feisty corner. I'm really talking more about premium positions here, but you could also go linebacker if you want. If we want to shore up that offensive line, which we have not done yet, that is also cool with me.
Is Chris Paul Jr. there?
Let's see.
At linebacker.
Yeah. Someone snagged him. He went at 81, so a few picks before us.
Yeah.
I don't hate Barrett Carter. I think it's probably good to invest in offensive line earlier rather than later. Next available is going to be Jalen Rivers, and he was a really solid tackle. Not the best zone blocker, but pretty good at gap schemes, which I don't exactly know if you want to do that with the Chip Kelly offense, but I think you definitely need better tackles. And so I think if he's the best available, that's cool with me.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm cool with going tackle and taking a flyer at this point.
Cool. One guy I hope is still there, I don't know if he will be, is Willie Lampkin. He's the really undersized guard. He's probably going to have to play center unless they want to move someone else. But he went.
Yeah,
That's a bummer. But there's just a lot of guys that are still pretty solid. Seth McLaughlin was really good whenever he was actually healthy. Tyler Cooper, a freak athlete, Dylan Fairchild, Jake Majors. There's a lot of guys we can go if we want to shore up offensive line. Riley Mills was also a really productive pass rusher as well. I know we kind of already invested a lot in that. So Barrett Carter, we may need linebackers, like you mentioned. So I think he could be a potential guy as well.
Yeah, I'm looking here. I'm trying to keep things. I don't mind Kobe King either out of Penn State.
Okay.
He's solid. He had an 83.6 overall grade. I'm trying to see. He was in the box most of his snaps, 704. So he's traditional inside the box. Decent amount of coverage snaps too. I mean, at this point you're wearing what, round 5? So you're trying to take guys you like. Yeah, so I'm good with Kobe King, but if you have more lean towards Barrett Carter, then go for it.
No, I think you made the case. We may get dinged in the PFF draft grading, but I don't really mind that too much.
That's okay.
All right, next up, it's mainly all just, I think, late 6th, early 7th round picks. So it's really just take guys that you like. There is one guy, if he is available, I definitely want to take him. It is Dante Thornton out of Tennessee. I don't know if he'll be available at this point. Oh, man, he's gone. That is all right. Ricky White is actually a pretty solid receiver out of UNLV. Yep. And then LeJohntay Wester is a really good slot receiver out of Colorado. He's someone who was obviously in the shadow of Travis Hunter, but his contested catch rate for his size is great. He's 5'11", 167, so he's a tiny guy, but he can still make contested catches, and he was just a smooth route runner, which is obviously what you want from the slot position. Yeah. So wide receiver is cool with me here. Do you have any side you're leaning towards?
I was going to say my biggest thing that I like to look at in guys this late is, can they play special teams, right? Like,
agreed, yeah.
You know, if they could play special teams, like they'll have a better chance. Like you're really looking like in round 6 and 7, like these are your special teams guys. Like this is what you're looking for, right? And so I'm looking. I like Jimmy Horn as well. You know, I know LeJohntay Hester. I'm fine taking either. I feel like LeJohntay Wester, I said Hester, likely profile is better as like a gunner on special teams than Jimmy Horn. So I think I would probably lean. I think I would go with Wester. So I'm good with that.
Yep, let's do it. 2 picks later. If you want to double dip anywhere, we can do that.
Ooh,
If you want to
I
take
would.
a quarterback of the future, we can. It's
Yeah,
also kind
I
of like
mean,
just yeah.
the tough thing here is like Shaw, right? Like or Tyler Shuck or Shaw. He's older. Click on his profile. I think he's what
Yeah,
26.
I think
So
you're
I
right. He's not young. Yeah,
25, right? He's gonna
25.5.
turn
So
26. Yeah, I mean, and with Gino and the likelihood that he's he could be there for a year or two. This isn't like a developmental quarterback that you have sit behind him. Maybe
mhm,
you take a chance on Brady Cook, who had a really bad year, but was looked at as one of the better prospects at quarterback in this class. He had a
mhm.
really good junior season, but this season did not play that well. Um, I'm good with taking a chance on like a Brady Cook, honestly, but they also have Aiden O'Connell behind, and so I don't know. It's probably more of a wasted pick on Brady Cook. What's at running back? I know we already took running back, but what's still out there? Because I don't mind double dipping when you look at their running back room and how bad it is. Like,
No, I agree.
um,
Probably the best is going to be Jaquindon Jackson. I know Donovan Edwards had quite the falling off.
yeah, he did.
Montreal Johnson's not terrible, and then Jaquavius Marks is, I believe, yeah, he's a pretty solid rusher. So any of these guys are fine with me.
Yeah, Marks probably spells better as more of a receiving back, so I'm good with
Yeah,
that based on his size compared to Judkins. You get a little bit of a different style there, so yeah, I think Marks would be fine
yeah.
for me.
All right, let's do it. All right, then at 222, if you want to go Brady Cook, that's fine. He could just be a practice squad guy if we need him.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah,
fuck
at
it.
this
If
point,
that's what you want.
yeah, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, so I want to ask you before the picks finalize, what do you think our grade is going to be for this draft?
I'd say B, B
B. Okay,
plus.
that's fair. Yeah,
2 new
I think we'll
awards.
get.
What,
Yeah,
what do you get for the awards?
I actually don't know. It's something that Tage talked about too. Like, do we get to cash them in? Do we get prizes? I don't know. All right,
Yeah,
we did get 2 A plus picks, which I think is great. A little bit of D plus. I think we're going to get A
yeah,
minus. That'd be the projection. Okay, we got an A. All right, that's cool with me.
yeah.
Yeah, Mason
That
Graham.
Brady Cook pick at the end they liked.
There you go.
They
Yeah.
gave us
So
an A
yeah,
for that.
getting Mason Graham at the 10 overall spot is immense
Yeah.
value, regardless of how you feel about him. I think getting him that late is perfect. And you also pick up a future second round pick that you can spend on a guy like Jaden Higgins or Trey Amos. And I think that addresses a key need that this team has, which is a receiver you can actually trust aside from just Jacoby Myers. And then Trey Amos, one of the most fundamentally sound cornerbacks in this draft, I think would be perfect for them. And then Judkins, he can instantly be close to your bell cow because he's just that talented of a guy. And so I think this would be a great draft for the Raiders. You're really addressing some key needs. Do you have any final thoughts in the draft before we move over to your team, the Broncos?
No, I think you hit on the head. I think Jaden Higgins would be a really nice addition to the loss of Adams, and going on you're getting more of a traditional X. I love Jaden Higgins. Jaden Higgins is probably my favorite prospect that I watched this year, outside of Mike Green.
Mhm.
I love that people have caught up to him a little bit more after his combine, but really fluid route runner for a guy his size, and guys his size shouldn't be able to move that well. So, but yeah, I overall I think this would be a really good draft if the Raiders came away with this haul.
Agreed. So let's move on to the Broncos. They finished third in the division, and they had much more of a quality over quantity type of offseason because I love literally every move that they made. So I could talk a little bit about Greenlaw. He's a really good linebacker. You're getting him for 3 year, $31 million. I think that's great value. Evan Ingram was a cap casualty, and he's going to be the guy to be your potential weapon because he moves like a receiver, but he plays tight end. And then Trent Sherfield, he's someone I have experience with because I'm a Vikings fan. He was great in special teams, which is obviously important in the NFL. And he was a really good run blocking receiver, which is what you're always going to want. And that speaks to the effort a guy is willing to lend out. So why don't you talk about some move that you like the best that the Broncos have made? And then we can kind of talk about the implications in the depth chart.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to go wrong. I mean, I like the Evan Ingram move a lot. I think the biggest thing is they brought him in the building, and the Broncos offer was not any more than the Chargers offer, who was the divisional rival. But I think I have a good feeling that they're going to try to utilize him a lot because that's had to be the selling point compared to the hardball selling point, right? If one team's offering no additional money, then it has to go with what team you think is going to utilize you better. And I think Peyton probably definitely sold him on that. I mean, he posted a picture of the Joker after he signed, which has always been a Sean Payton thing. Everyone keeps talking about he needs his Joker. He needs his Joker. This guy that creates mismatches in the middle of the field is what the Joker traditionally is. And I mean, look, I love the additions of the 49ers guys. It's really about health with them. But I mean, you're talking about two guys that all have all pro potential. I mean, Hufanga was an all pro. I think he was second team all pro, 2 years back, but he's dealt with some injuries. And so got to stay healthy. But even Greenlaw, in the limited time that he played last year, I watched back some of his snaps, and he still looked to move pretty well, which is always a concern off of an Achilles. So overall, I think they had a pretty good offseason.
Yeah. And what I like what they did as well is you're buying the dip on guys who had injuries, because while injuries obviously are going to impact the players, like health concerns and things like that, you are typically seeing teams be much too scared, and they tend to overestimate the impact of an injury rather than underestimate it. And the Broncos also are not like some terrible roster where you have to bank on these guys winning. They're just a really good roster, and getting Dre Greenlaw for a discount, despite being a really good player, I think would be perfect for them. So let's talk a little bit about their depth chart. If we can transition there. Obviously, at receiver, Cortland Sutton's going to be their wide receiver 1 for now. Marvin Mims Jr. had a pretty solid season last year. Trent Sherfield may shore up as like their gunner / wide receiver 4. And Troy Franklin, the speedster out of Oregon, didn't look incredible, but had his moments. Obviously, their offensive line is going to be like their bread and butter, what they've been best at recently. And then, like you mentioned, the Joker with Evan Ingram, someone who's just an absolute mismatch, and you're getting him as your tight end. I think that would be perfect. Do you have any thoughts on where we can maybe improve with this offense, or do you think it's kind of already crystallized there?
I think their offensive line is pretty good. It wouldn't surprise me if they made a move on that side. But their biggest thing is, look, they need playmakers. I don't even think Troy Franklin is a lock to make this team, because you have Devon Vele, you have Cortland Sutton. Those two guys are pretty much locked in, and Marvin Mims. So you have 3 guys locked in. Outside of that, maybe your wide receiver 4 doesn't have to play special teams, but then you really need guys that are, that's why Sherfield, like you said, like he's a big special teams guy, right? And he can block, right? So they just lost little Jordan Humphrey, who didn't provide a ton receiving either, but he was a big blocker, which is what Sean Payton likes. And so I think they could go wide receiver, but I don't think it'll be, in the first round or 2, but it wouldn't shock me. I think running back is the biggest need, but I think they're pretty good on the O-line. I think they maybe bring some guys in more on the interior than on the outside, because I think they're set with Bowles and McGlinchey. And they also really like this guy, Alex Palczewski, who is more of a developmental guy who played really well in a couple of games last year when they needed him.
And so, I think running back is definitely something we could go after if a really good running back does fall to us. I doubt in the first round, but you never know. Let's move on to the defense. And defense is also, in my opinion, like a pretty rock-solid defense. Nick Benito was like their perfect versatile linebacker / edge rusher, depending on the down. Obviously, you have the Depoy and Pat Surtain. Yeah, I think defense looks great. There may be some small areas of improvement. Do you have any final thoughts on the defense?
Yeah, I think defense, they could definitely add to the interior. There's some possible departures. John Franklin Myers wants an extension. Nick Benito is looking for an extension. Zach Allen's looking for an extension. So they could definitely add there. I also think they could maybe get better than Jaquan McMillan there at the nickel. So maybe an upgrade at corner, but I wouldn't think they're not going to invest high capital in that position. I think really, like you had said, like maybe getting a linebacker in case Alex Singleton's a cap casualty, and likely their interior defensive line is the 2 spots that I think would make the most sense.
Perfect. All right. So let's move into a mock draft. And do you have any initial strategies you think we should attack in the first round? Do you want to go Omarion Hampton? Or I don't think Jency's going to fall, but is there any like concept you want to go into with the goal in mind for the Broncos?
So I know based on Sean Payton doesn't typically trade back. If anything, he trades up. So that would be likely what they do. I don't think they're going to trade back, but I don't know. Let's see how the board falls. Let's see who's there, and we'll take it from there.
Awesome. So do you want to go turbo, or do you want to go a little bit slower to see if anyone you really like falls?
You can go fast. Fast is fine.
Okay. Yeah. The only real downside with this is that for some reason the turbo is not super consistent. It doesn't always go like ultra turbo speed.
Yeah. No,
Just
I'm
maybe
in no rush. It's all good. It's all good.
Okay. There's some guys I really like here. I like Luther Burden a lot because almost similar to Evan Ingram, he's like just a matchup nightmare in the sense that he's pretty quick. He's great after the catch. He can force a lot of missed tackles. He's more of a slot guy, and I don't necessarily think they have that for now. But is there anyone else you like better?
If I was going to go wide receiver, it'd be Egbuka, just because
Okay.
Egbuka is a guy that does block well.
Yeah.
Whereas they already have Luther Burton, it's more of like Marvin Mims like style. Mims can kind of do that role that you're looking for. So it would be Egbuka, and then I really like Kenneth Grant here out of Michigan as well. I think personally, if it was me, I'd like it to be Egbuka. If we're drafting for me, I think if this was what was what was on the board, I think they would likely go Kenneth Grant. But if it was me, which we're doing it based on us, then I'd go with Egbuka.
Okay. If you want to get a little risky, I don't know why the Vikings would ever come up here, but there's a chance that one of those guys falls to 24 and you get extra draft capital. If you want to go the safer route, that is also fine with me. I, similar to you, am leaning between two of these guys. I think Egbuka is just a much safer prospect than Luther Burden. There's also not really personality concerns with Egbuka, which I guess there are some with Luther Burden, but he's a very safe prospect. So do you want to go the risky route? Do you want to take one of these guys? It's really up to you.
Let me see who else is left in the interior. I saw Walter Nolan. Just scroll down a little bit more. I just want to see who's left. Yeah.
Grant's going to be like your nose tackle. Nolan's more of a 3 technique who's good against the run.
Yeah,
Shamar Stewart, the ultra athlete, still there. There's a lot of guys available.
And in this situation, I would guarantee that if Loveland's on the board, he's probably going to the Chargers. So you can definitely mark that off. And then you're assuming you probably have an idea of what the Vikings want to do if they're calling you. So yeah, I'm good with trading back. That's fine. I think likely Vikings would make this move to trade up for another interior guy. I know you're the Vikings fan, so you would know. I know they brought in some guys, but there's Jonathan Allen's up there in age, has injury concerns, and look at what the Eagles did, like stacking on a strength. Like there's nothing wrong with that, especially if it's premier talent at a premier position.
Yeah, and not to yap about the Vikings too much, but their free agency acquisitions were older guys, and these guys are not great against the run. And Kenneth Grant is arguably the best run defender in the NFL draft right now. And so I think if they're trading up, I could be wrong about this, but if they're trading up, my guess is for a guy like Kenneth Grant. But I think this is pretty realistic. We're getting 24, so dropping back 4 spots. We're getting their later 3rd round pick, and then we're getting a 4th pick in the 2026 draft. I could take away their entire draft, but I don't think that's that realistic. So we'll kind of keep things at this for now. And let's see who they take. They took Egbuka. That is surprising. And the Packers took Kenneth Grant. Okay, so both of our guys did get snagged.
That's all right.
Yeah.
But I like the reason I'm fine with this because Nolan and Hampton are still there. So I know you personally don't love the idea of taking a running back. I'm okay taking running back 1st round if it's towards the back end because you get that extra year from an option standpoint. You get the player option. So you can wait a little bit to extend them and not have to deal with this whole running back issue that we've been dealing with where it's like, they're about to hit free agency. Do you extend them? Like you get an extra year of time. So honestly, if I think Hampton would be the pick here, just because of how Peyton's talked. So I would go Hampton at this spot because I also think he'd be a really good fit as well.
No, I think that makes sense, and he's probably physically like the most intimidating running back there is right now in the draft. He's really, really huge, and he's great at running the ball. I guess the argument that people make against drafting a running back so early is just the fact that the best running backs in the NFL, you pay them like $20 million a year, and that's the absolute top. And so comparing that to like a really good nose tackle, a really good defensive tackle, they typically get close to $25-30 million, as we saw with Milton Williams. And so if you're making this like a financial argument, you could definitely make the case for why taking running back early is not the best move. But I do think that a guy like Omarion Hampton is much safer than Walter Nolan. So I understand why they would be willing to make this move. But at the 51 spot, there are some guys we could definitely still add. So we already took our running back of the future. So Scatabo is kind of off the board here. Linebacker, we could shore up with Demetrius Knight. Their safety situation is fine, but Xavier Watts is a really good safety. Omar Norman Lott is still here, really productive pass rusher out of Tennessee. Now, he's
Yeah.
like one of the big beneficiaries of the fact that, one, he didn't play a lot of snaps, and two, Tennessee was almost always blitzing or utilizing certain like leverages to give him one-on-one matchups. But despite that, he still capitalized on them. Do you have any guy that's really calling your name in this position?
I do love Mason Taylor, but we're not going to take him that high with Evan Ingram. I would say I think the Broncos are in a good spot where they can probably just go best player available at this point. I mean, go to Siobhan Ravel real quick. I want to see his slots in the snap as a nickel. How much did he play? So if you
He
scroll
did not
down
play
on
much. Yeah, he didn't play much as a nickel.
Yeah.
Like just a little bit because he's one of those like really lengthy, fast boundary outside corners. And so if he's going to play, it's most likely not going to be at the nickel spot.
Yeah.
Let's see cornerbacks that are available because there definitely may be some nickel guys.
Yeah, I mean, Benjamin Morrison, not really a nickel either.
Yeah, and Porter's in a kind of a similar build to Savon Ravel. So I think
if
we're going to go nickel,
no reason to force it.
Later.
Yeah, no reason to force it. Go to interior. Let me see who's on that. So you have linebacker Demiris. Who's on the interior D line? Yeah. I mean, Shamar Turner.
I like Omar Norman Lott better, but that's just me. Alfred Collins really good against the run. Then Joshua Farmer, also productive pass rusher. There's still a lot of guys available. If I'm going to pick between these guys, I personally like Norman Lott better just because Joshua Turner. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Turner has some character concerns too. Personal foul issues. He draws a lot of penalties.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think based on Sean Payton and stuff, I think it's probably safer character guys. I don't know. I mean, he did do Bounty Gate, so maybe.
I was going to say I think it's almost safer for Sean Payton to not pick him because it would be too tempting. But yeah. All right, Omar Norman Lott. I think he'd be a perfect pick for them here.
Nice.
All right, and then at 85, let's see what we got. Shamar Turner goes at 63. That's a much-needed draft pick for the Chiefs. Jackson Dart goes to the Jets in the third round, and then we got a few more picks coming up here.
I got Chris Paul just went. Yeah, Chris Paul and Mason Taylor.
Oh yeah, that's a bummer.
So,
all right, so we already have our running back of the future. Already have a good interior defensive lineman. What guy or what route is really calling your name here?
So I like the two receivers I'm already seeing here. I like Royals. I like Noel. We addressed running back. We bulked up on the D line. Go to the receivers. I just want to see who
still out there.
The whole list. Yeah. So
Savion Williams. Yeah. I also like him a lot. He may be another type of joker that they can use because he's a guy who is probably like the freakiest athlete in the entire receiver class. He's like ultra fast. He's 6'5". He's also like a part-time running back. He's almost like your modern day Cordell Patterson. Yeah. He's not like super productive, but his traits are insane. 88% contested catch rate is almost number one in the entire draft. And
decent amount of drops. Decent amount of drops is my biggest concern with him. I also if I was going to take a guy, I think the size makes a lot of sense for Sean Payton's offense. I'd be curious to know what his blocking grade looks like.
Let's see. I don't know if it's on here. From what I've watched, he has some really high highlights because he is so strong.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's a consistent thing.
Yeah, I really like Noel. I out of Indiana. I just don't know size wise but I feel like they're looking to. I think they're like from what I've read, it seems like they're open to like bringing in someone who's not that traditional X. I think Noel could be a guy that can work across the middle of the field in conjunction to Evan Ingram. Go to Jalen Royals' profile real quick.
Yeah, he's someone. Utah State's offense was super weird, and so there's like very little actual stuff you can look at. But the stuff that does exist, he was great, and his athleticism not incredible, but a really really good route runner. He's like really good at just utilizing leverage, which is obviously important for receiver. I think he's really smart player as well, and so I think you really can't go wrong between these top three. Savion's probably the riskier pick. If you want to go Tez Johnson as well, I'm not entirely opposed to that because he is the Bo Nix guy.
No. Too high. Yeah, I mean, if it's me personally, I'll go with Jalen Noel. If you want to go Savion, we could do that too. But Noel
No,
would be my
Noel
pick.
sounds good to me. All right, then at 97.
Oh, I forgot we picked up an extra, didn't we?
We did, yeah, the Vikings pick. So I do like Jonah a lot here. He's a really good tackle out of Arizona, and it's tough to get guys who are this good this late, 6'5", 336, so that kind of traditional tackle / guard hybrid build. Also pretty good at pass blocking, which is important. Charles Grant is an electric run blocker, probably the best run blocker in the draft. At the tackle position, 93 zone grade. So he could potentially be Omarion Hampton's best friend. But is there any guy here that you like the best? Tez is still there. That's all I'm saying.
No, yeah. Let me. Who do we have left at linebacker? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity. Yeah, Jeffrey Bass is. I like Bossa, but he is pretty small. Somebody was trying to argue with me about his size. I mean, 6'2", 235, like I don't know. I do have size concerns with him. Because he was a converted safety. So I mean, maybe wait and see if we can get Barrett Carter out of Clemson. What else is there outside of tackle? One more check. I want to see interior O line real quick.
Yeah,
and see if there's anything solid there.
Willie Lampkin's still there, but I think he's probably going to be a later pick.
It could be a little bit of a reach.
Yeah, he's much more of a center type of build just because he is 5'11". He's like 270.
Well, they do need.
I think he played 270. Yeah,
they do need help at center.
Okay, so honestly, at 122, if we want to go Lampkin, that's cool with me because
we can give that a shot.
Yeah, he's so good at utilizing leverage. If you want to go Charles Grant now, we could shore up a potential guard spot. Or if you want to go a more fun pick,
let's go Charles Grant. No, stop bringing up Tez Johnson.
Yeah, Charles Grant. Yeah, one of the best run blockers, 6'4", 300. I guess he was a wrestler as well, which is a good indicator of how he knows how to utilize leverage.
Sure.
Yeah, but any of these guys are cool with me. I personally probably like Charles Grant the best.
Yeah, let's go with Charles Grant.
Cool. All right, then at 122, we can still go Lampkin, make that offensive line go from really, really good to elite. Or if we want to go someone else more fun. Tez Johnson did go in the 4th round. The dream has died.
I don't think that's
no.
I think he's late 5th, early 6th is probably where he goes.
Yeah, and I think people are a little bit too scared of the 40 time. Now, I will say, like, running that 40 time is not good, especially when you're that tiny. But on the field, like, his tracking data indicated he's much faster than the 40 time suggested. Still he's tiny, and he's not like your other smaller guys who have a complete build. But not like your Tank Dells of the world. He's definitely slot only, but sure. I wouldn't hate him in the 5th round, but he is already gone. So next up, we have 122. I don't know if Lampkin is still available. He is. If you want to go Lampkin, that is fine with me. Jeffrey Bossa is still there if you like him better. And then if you want to go corner, you can do that as well. There's kind of a lot of guys we can go here.
Yeah, it'd be between Bossa and Lampkins. I think I would lean Bossa just because there's more of a need there, and I think they believe in Luke Wattenberg, who is the current center. So yeah, I'm good with Bossa.
Cool, that makes sense. All right, and then next up we have 191. So quite some time. If Barrett Carter goes 130 to the Lions, I think that pick makes sense. Bashal Tutin goes to the Eagles in the 4th round, which is very scary. I don't necessarily understand why they make that pick because Bashal Tutin's much more of like an outside zone type of running back than he is a gap type of guy. But when you're a guy that fast in the offensive line,
I'm not the biggest Tutin guy. I think the 40 really. I mean the 40 and just the combine kind of overhyped him up a little bit.
Yeah,
I have concerns with him between the tackles and how he would fare in the NFL running between the tackles.
Yeah, there is also the fumbling concern as well, which is obviously something important. It can derail a drive. All right, next up, let's see what we got. Tonka Hemingway is still there. I think we already went Omar Norman Lott. There is A lot of these guys are fine, and we are in the later 6th round. So it's really just guys you like. One guy I do like a lot that we talked about for the last team is Dante Thornton. He's 6'5" and he runs a 4.3. There's
Yeah,
not much else aside from that. His contested catch rate is really high, but it's on such a low sample size that you can't really take too much from that. But
sure.
I think his athletic traits are just so high that to me it's worth taking a flyer on a guy like this.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Awesome. And if there is anyone that knows how to use him, I think it is going to be Sean Payton.
Yeah.
All right,
Before you make, I actually like Ty Felton too. Go
yeah.
to tight end. I just want to see what's left in that crop there.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
Conyers,
Luke Lashley, maybe.
Leahy, and there's Gadsden.
I like Gadsden. He's solid.
Yeah.
If you were gonna take a flyer on a guy, I mean, I know it seems early, but I don't mind reaching at this late at the end of the draft.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
so he
Yeah,
would be a guy. Yeah, he'd be maybe a guy you look at. I wouldn't be surprised if they double dipped at running back too, with like their
yeah.
last
And
pick.
we can go that with our last pick if there's anyone we really like.
Yeah,
Kyle Monunga,
yeah,
I went earlier. I like him a lot as like your safer, less fumbling type of guy.
sure.
Ollie Gordon is someone who had a fall from grace last season. He was projected
Yeah,
to be
good.
like a second, third round pick. But I'm cool with buying low on a guy like this. He's really big. He's really good at running. Didn't have a good offensive line last season, which is maybe why he wasn't so productive. But I think of all the running back types, he's probably the best available right now.
Yeah, I mean, people like LaQuint Allen, but I like Ollie Gordon. He was the best running back in college football last year, and then had a fall
Yeah.
from grace. But I think it had more to do with the offense than anything else.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. Ollie Gordon. Don't think he'll get the starting job with, the picks we made previously, but I think this is a great draft for the Broncos. You're shoring up your most immediate need at running back, and you're turning that from a weakness to an absolute strength with Omarion Hampton. You're getting much better at the interior spot, which is like the new hot thing for teams to do. Jalen Noel is a really good receiver, and then you're getting significantly better at the run game with Charles Grant being your potential tackle of the future guard for now. But yeah, I think this is a great draft.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. What draft grade do you think we've got here?
I would say they probably give us a B plus.
B plus. I think that's fair. I don't think they'll love the Hampton pick just because they are PFF. Don't love Omar a lot. B plus. There you go. Nail it right there.
There we go.
All right. So, do you have any final thoughts on what the Broncos have done here?
No, I mean, I think, like you said, I think I feel like we shored up a lot of the areas of need. I think getting help in the trenches is good. D-line and tackle. Add some high upside guys at the skill positions, which is what seems to be important for them. So,
All right. So let's transition to the Chargers.
All right. So while you open up the Chargers, let me drop down for 1 second, but you preview them, and I'll be right back.
Cool. All right. So just to preview the Chargers, we talked a little bit about Becton being like their big free agency splash, but 2 years, $20 million. I think that's a bargain for him. He's one of the best run blocking offensive linemen that was in the league last year. And obviously, whenever you're having the Eagles offensive line be such a strength, it's going to make him look significantly better. But he's so good and he shores up a need that the Chargers do have at their interior spots. And so I think that's a perfect pairing there. Dante Jackson was their cornerback that they got, potentially the replacement for Asante Samuel if he does walk. We don't exactly know what's going to happen there yet. Najee Harris, I think, is going to be their new running back if they don't end up keeping some of their guys. And then Mike Williams, I think, was perfectly fine. He's a really big, sacrificial X receiver. He's big. He's fast. Tyler Conklin is going to be their potential backup tight end. I think if one of the best tight ends in the draft is still there, he would be perfect. I think you're back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Right.
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts on the way that the Chargers have handled free agency?
Yeah, I mean, I like that they brought back a lot of guys, which is always a nice thing to see. Keeping that core, especially after having a solid season. I actually think Deshaun Hand is a pretty underrated signing. Help out with that interior. I mean, they really beefed up, right? I mean, I'm not sure what to expect from some of the other guys like Naquan Jones. St. Juice, like nothing sexy there. But we talked about it. Mekhi Becton is a really nice flyer. 2 years, $20 million for a guy that they're probably going to slide at guard. They're not going to put him out there at tackle. They're pretty good set there. But I like Becton. I like that. I like the signing and bringing him there. That's probably my favorite move.
Yeah. I mean, one of the more notable losses is the fact that they did lose Joey Bosa, and so they definitely have a need at edge rusher. So that's something we could address. Khalil Mack is going to be there, obviously edge one, but aside from that, things aren't looking too great. And then they also are just kind of missing some interior defense, considering what they lost. And so, yeah, losing Puna Ford, who was one of the more underrated run stoppers, I think is, just an indicator that they may go that in the draft as well. So let's talk about their depth chart while I pull that up. There we go. All right, so, Mike Williams was their retention. Quentin Johnston and Ladd McConkey are going to be their other receivers. Obviously, Ladd, amazing rookie season. Quentin Johnston, not so much. Their tackles are great. Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater are some of the best pairings you can ask for. And then Mekhi Becton really shores up that interior. Tyler Conklin is their tight end for now. I'm expecting them to go tight end earlier rather than later. Do you have any thoughts on what they've done so far in free agency with their depth chart and things that we could improve in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think they could definitely improve at tight end. I like Tyler Conklin. He's older. Will Dissly was solid. I think they could definitely improve there. They could definitely still add to that wide receiver room. I know Mike Williams, like he's looked good in spurts, but it's the classic Mike Williams thing is when he's healthy. I think he can, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they add to that tight end and that. I mean, really tight end, running back, and wide receiver are all areas that they could definitely use to help with. I think their offensive line's in a pretty solid spot, but it wouldn't be surprised if they maybe add to that interior a little bit as well, just to back up Becton, just in case he has those injury concerns pop up again.
Agreed. So moving on to their defense, like we said before, they did lose Joey Bosa, so that's a big loss, but they did retain Khalil Mack, which is perfect for them. Derwin James, their safety, that is the superstar that they've had for a while. The rest of their defense, I think, has some holes. They're probably going to be losing Asante Samuel, and so that could be something we could talk about. Do you have any notable needs they may have at the defensive spot?
So I would say for them, I mean, they're pretty shored up. I mean, Dante Jackson's a nice signing out there. I mean, I still think that they could do better at the cornerback position. I mean, Cam Hart, right? I mean, I'm looking here and I don't see. Where is Cromartie? I'm not Cromartie. Am I going crazy? Didn't they draft Cromartie, his kid, like a few years ago?
Did they? That's a good question.
Asante Samuel Jr. Sorry, Asante Samuel Jr.
Oh yeah. So we don't know for sure, but he's still a free agent, and my guess is he walks.
Okay.
Yeah, my guess is he walks. We don't know for sure. There are some like speculations that are tying him with the Vikings because the Vikings do still have a need at cornerback, so he may go there. Sure. We honestly don't know for sure, but yeah, I definitely still think that they're fine with one quarterback spot, but you can't have two serious gaps there. So my guess is they're going to address that in the draft as well.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say that too. And honestly, they just lost Joey Bosa, so it wouldn't. They probably would maybe look at bringing help on the edge as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of routes we can go here. So let's transition to the mock draft. Chargers are picking at the 22 spot, which to me is really a sweet spot to trade down unless there's some guy you really, really like. So let's just go into the draft here. Are there any kind of overall strategies you want to approach with making this Chargers team better?
No, I mean, look, I think Chargers are similar where they don't have a ton of like in pending needs. I think, like I said, if Loveland falls, I think that's likely the pick there, and I actually would really like that for them. So again, this is one of those teams that if we're talking like top 10 pick, like there's a lot of specific needs, but this is probably a team that's going to go best player available, right? In many cases, in my opinion, and also look to kind of continue to beef up the trenches.
I agree. So let's get this draft going. Do not anticipate trading up. Did Colston Loveland go? He did not. Okay, so he's still going to be available. If you
Yeah.
personally like him the best, that's fine with me because that's one of the most immediate needs the Chargers do have. They could improve at running back. They could improve at edge rusher. I don't really see a guy here I love aside from James Pierce Jr., who also has, I guess, some personality concerns teams are worried about.
I'm not even that
With
high
the
on
running,
Pierce. I don't know. A lot of people like
yeah,
him. I didn't really love the tape either with him. He
yeah, I
like
understand that.
I was just saying my issue with him is he played on a really stacked defense
Yeah.
and he rotated in a lot. So he got a lot of time off. Some people might say, well, he did a lot with limited snaps, but at the same time, like this defense had so many good players going at the offense that, him coming in against a tired O-line, like it's just a lot of rotating and a lot of like, maintaining that juice. So I mean, personally, I think it would probably or Kenneth Grant, right? Like Kenneth Grant, like it just feels like Michigan, the ties with Harbaugh, like with those two guys being premium, Kenneth Grant more at a premium position than Loveland, but I think those two probably make the most sense.
No, I think that makes sense. As much as I like Kenneth Grant, and it was Jim Harbaugh who called him God's gift to football, which speaks a lot about Kenneth Grant being so talented. I think Loveland may make more sense here. Now, I am like the analytics guy, so that's kind of hurting my ears a little bit. But Loveland, I think, addresses a more immediate need. And to me, there is a definitive top two at the tight end spots. And then after that, to me, there's quite a bit of a drop off with Elijah Arroyo still being pretty good. But to me, Loveland is in a different tier. So I think you can address these interior defensive lineman needs a little bit later in the draft because it is so deep. But Loveland to me is more of a definitive talent that there's not a lot of those guys out there in this draft.
Yeah.
Cool. So Loveland is going to be our pick here. Like you said, I think it works perfectly with the whole Jim Harbaugh ties. But we are picking at 55, and this to me would be good to get a run stopper here if we can. CJ West is pretty solid. He's a little bit of a bigger guy, 6'2", 317, not massive, but 88 run defense grade, I think was perfect for this spot. Omar Norman Lott is much more of a penetrating guy. I do like Alfred Collins a lot. He was more of the star on this defensive line, although Vernon Broughton has really made a name for himself recently, post-combine. But maybe Alfred Collins could be the better pick here. Is there anyone else that you're leaning more towards?
Yeah. No, I'm fine with Collins if you like him.
Yeah.
I don't have issues with that at all. I mean, I like Lott as well from Tennessee. But I'm good with either guy.
Yeah. All right. Let's do it. I think Alfred Collins addresses a more immediate need for them as well. Just stopping the run is going to be really important, especially with the fact that the Broncos are probably going to run the ball more now if they have Omar and Hampton. Don't know if that'll happen, but here we have RJ Harvey available. Jared Wilson is arguably the best pure center prospect we have. And then there also are some receivers I still like that could be a complement to the guys they have.
Yeah, Savion Williams just feels like it would be just similar to Quentin Johnston and Mike Williams, and with the risk.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with drops.
Yeah, like with the Quentin Johnston thing, I don't think that's the route they would go. I could see maybe Jalen Royals as a possibility. Who else is out there on defense is my question, because I don't really love the crop wide receivers here.
Yeah, at this point, Lathan Ransom is probably going to be the best defensive player available, or Makuba. Yeah. There's I guess a big run on defense happened. Chris Paul.
What's left at corner? What's left at corner?
Yeah, let's take a look. Dorian Strong still there. Kobe Bryant still there. I think we can get one of those three guys. I like Kobe a lot too. Maybe a tiny bit of reach. I don't honestly mind it because you do have a need at corner. He's a really feisty guy, smaller guy, but he has the perfect personality type for a corner. Big trash talker, which I like a lot for corner. I'm cool with getting one of these four guys in our next pick because we do have 125 still available. I think Jared Wilson could be a guy we could take, or Jalen Royals to me would be a good pairing here.
Yeah, I would say, Royals or taking the guy on the interior O-line. I think based on them, I think Royals is good though, because they just brought in Becton. So, and there's a pretty solid drop off at wide receiver.
Agreed. All right, let's do Royals. And then I think if one of these four cornerbacks are still available, hopefully Kobe Bryant, I like him the best personally. Don't know if that'll happen, but we will see.
Okay.
Cornerback, Zy Alexander is going to be the best available.
Yeah.
And I really don't hate his pick here. Good in coverage. He's okay against the run. More of a zone guy, which is what the Chargers have played in the past few years. So I think that makes sense here.
Yeah. I'm good with that. Yeah, can't continue to kick the can down the road and get stuck with nobody. You don't want to reach either, but again, once you start to hit like round 4 and beyond, I mean, you can take the risks.
Yeah, just guys you like. Billy Bowman is someone I also like a lot. Now they do already have their safety spot kind of shored up, but he's probably the best available aside from maybe Trevor Etienne if you like him. Tesla's also solid. Yeah, there's some guys still available. Bowman, to me, what's so good about him is that he's really feisty. He really likes to play with a lot of speed, which is important for a safety spot.
Now they have Derwin. They have Derwin. Who's the guy next to them? Him? Who's next to Derwin?
Who is the guy next to Derwin?
I can't remember if they brought somebody in.
Yeah, it's Aloi Gilman. Honestly, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, and Bowman's more. I mean, he can play in that more free safety spot, right?
Yeah,
it's more rangy. So I'm good with Bowman taking him there.
Perfect for me. All right, we have 5 picks left, so let's just take guys you like at this point.
5 picks. Oh shit! I didn't know they had so many.
McLaughlin, I think, is perfect here. Aside from the injury concern, I think he won the award for best center last season. He won the rookie.
Best.
Yep. All right. Next up, we have 199. Dante Thornton just goes. Which receivers are still available? I like Ricky White a lot.
Yeah, I like Ricky White too. I mean, again, no reaches at this point. Just go for guys that you like. I'm good with that.
Yeah, let's do it. And honestly, if one of the few guys we pick.
Did we take a running back? I don't think we did.
We have not yet. So
probably
I would say running back territory.
Yeah, as I say, probably. I mean, you might even want to double up because they have so many picks here, and there's not much left there.
I like Jaquan Jackson. He's a former quarterback converted to running back. 97 elusiveness rating. He's good against zone and gap, which is important. That's
size wise. What's his size? What's size wise?
6'2", 233. So he's more of that like big, heavy bell cow type of build.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, he can back up Najee. That's fine. I mean, it's not going to be a spell, but it's more of a backup, which is fine.
Cool. All right, and then between the other running backs, if we still want to double dip, you can really take a guy you like the best here. Donovan Edwards. I know people don't like him. He did have a really productive season the year before last year, and so maybe that ceiling's still there if you want to take that risk.
He's a Michigan guy. Let's just take him.
Yeah.
Michigan guy. Take him. These are just flyers at this point. I'm good.
And he was better under Harbaugh than he was more recently, and so maybe Harbaugh could unlock something in him. And then at 255, really it's just anyone. Jordan Hancock is a fine safety. Good against coverage. Doesn't miss a lot of tackles. This guy to me is fine.
Yeah, Ohio State too. Played in a big conference. I'm good with that.
Cool. All right. So, what grade do you think we got here?
I don't think we did as good on this one. I think we get a B minus.
Yeah, I don't think they'll love Colson Loveland just because he's not a premium position. And a few guys they consider reaches. Yep, you nailed it. And you're 2 for 2 or 2 for 3. 2 for 3. Yeah.
2 for 3. We'll take that. Yeah, we were surprised at the Raiders one. I think Raiders we got like an A on.
Yeah, that one's pretty high because we got some good value with some of those guys. All right, so finally, we have the Chiefs, and let's pull up the moves that they have made so far. And we talked a little bit about what they've done. Not my favorite things in the world, with Jalen Moore being like their big signing, but they are the Chiefs, and so they're going to be good probably forever as long as Patrick Mahomes is healthy. And so they just build some guys that they think can make his job a little bit easier. I think Kareem Hunt does that. Getting him for $1.5 million is perfectly fine with me. Christian Fulton is a fine cornerback, and they're maintaining their quarterback of the defense in Nick Bolton. So do you have any thoughts on what the Chiefs have done so far in free agency?
I'm not gonna lie. This is probably my least favorite. Which for me, obviously, as a Broncos fan, that makes it my favorite. But probably my least favorite offseason that they've had. I think I think they found themselves in tough spots. It was great to see that they brought back Nick Bolton. I mean, we talked about them bringing in. I don't see him here. They brought in the tackle. Oh yeah, Jalen Moore is at the top. Journeyman.
Moore, yeah.
Like, when Jalen Moore is your best signing, which I would say bringing in Marquise Brown and re-signing, Charles and those were good. They did a better job at retaining guys. But when Jalen Moore, who's been a journeyman tackle and is your answer possibly, I have concerns there. So I actually think they had a pretty tough free agency. So this is going to be a really big draft for them.
No, I agree, because one of the big bummers is the fact that typically the best tackles go really early, and this is not the best draft to desperately need a tackle, because most of the really good tackles are tackle/guard hybrid type of guys, and those guys go really early. And so, yeah, definitely not the best pairing for what the Chiefs need versus what we have available in the draft. But let's talk first about their depth chart. So I think the receivers are really solid. Xavier Worthy had a bit of a breakout in the back half of last season, became their wide receiver one. Rashee Rice may get a suspension pretty soon, but he is a really good receiver, had a really productive first few games before the injury. We already talked about their offensive line situation not being amazing. Their interior is still really good. Creed Humphrey's great. Trey Smith, they had a franchise tag because he is very good. And then their left tackle, Jalen Moore, I don't love it. And so my guess is in this draft, we're probably going to have to go tackle if it's not going to be a guy we're going to start now, he needs to be a guy we can start in the future. But do you have any thoughts on what the Chiefs have done so far?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, tackle's got to be the most important thing. I think they're going to bring in a running back. Tackle and running back is probably going to be the things that they attack the most, and maybe bringing in a tight end. But they did draft Jared Wiley. Noah Gray seemed to take a nice step forward, so maybe tight end is not that big of a concern right now, though it is a pretty rich class. But I think likely that they need help on the O-line, man. I mean, tackle and running back is going to be the top two spots that I think that they attack. And then probably maybe taking an interior offensive lineman like left guard, to help out with Kingsley, who I'm not super excited about either.
Agreed. So onto their defense. I mean, as long as Spagnuolo is going to be there, I think their defense is going to be fine. Karlaftis is a fine edge rusher. Chris Jones is going to be obviously the biggest guy they need. Really, really good guy who kind of took up the mantle of best defensive tackle once Aaron Donald did retire. But Nick Bolton is going to be their versatile piece that they extended recently. And then Trent McDuffie is kind of the straw that stirs the drink, because he's such a good cornerback. He's someone you can trust to play slot, play cornerback. He's someone who's really good. Do you have any immediate needs they may have at the defensive spot that we could address?
Yeah, I mean, their linebackers are solid. I think getting somebody to Chris Jones started dealing with some injuries last year. He's getting up there in age. This is a really rich class with defensive linemen. So I don't know if we're going to be able to spend a premier pick, in the first 2 days on D-line, but I would say that's definitely a need for them. I would say safety, right? I mean, Jaden Hicks, Brian Cook, like, they're nothing that's going to get you excited. I think Spags just gets the best out of his players. So I think safety is also something to take a look at for them, and interior defensive line.
All right, perfect. So let's get this started. The Chiefs are picking at the 31 overall spot, which, if there is a time of year to be picking at 31, I think this is a fine time to do it. Like we talked about, their needs are more at the tackle spot, which would go earlier. But this draft's talent curve to me is much more flat than it typically is, meaning guys who are at the 15 spot are very similar in talent level to guys who are at the 30 spot or the 40 spot. So, things could work out for the Chiefs here, but I think we're probably going to go offensive line, edge rusher, maybe running back if we like one a lot here. Do you have any immediate things that you want to address for this team to make it better? As painful as it may be as a Broncos fan.
It's going to be tackle. It's going to be tackle. It's got to be after what happened in the Super Bowl and the fact that they got worse at the position, at the O-line position. It's got to be tackle or interior O-line for sure.
Perfect. All right. So get things started. And obviously, first guys go off the board. Let's see if there is anyone that we still like a lot. I think Gray Zabel is going to be your best. He is built a little bit more like a guard, like a center type, and so he could be your left guard of the future. I think what would make sense for them to do now is to try to let him fail at tackle first because you need tackle so much more. And maybe if you need to let him play guard initially with the signings that they made in free agency to address tackle first, I think it's fine to do that. Between him and Josh Connerly, do you have a guy you prefer more?
I would prefer Connerly just because I don't want to take a chance on Zabel at tackle coming out of a small school. That's my biggest concern. I like Zabel, right? I think he can be good. And I understand, let him fail at tackle, but he's not good. He's not going to be getting drafted as high as he is because he's a good tackle. I think what he did at the Senior Bowl, showing that he's flexible, can play all around the offensive line, especially in the interior, and doing such a good job against top talent. Coming from a small school, they didn't see him play tackle at the Senior Bowl in practice, against top edge rushers. He was mainly going up against defensive linemen. So that's what my concern is. So I'd rather take a chance on Connerly or Banks if Banks somehow falls, or even the kid out of Ohio State. I think one of those three will probably be there.
Okay. Yeah. Connerly, I think, makes sense. More of a pure tackle type of build. So I think that's perfect for them. All right, next up at 63, there are still.
Oh wait, you got to switch over. You got to switch the screen over. Sorry.
Oh well, I'm so sorry.
Nah, you're good, man.
Yeah. So okay, everyone who has not heard it.
That's why when I said it, that's why I was like, he might. I think either of them will probably be there, and I didn't realize that. I thought maybe you didn't flip the screen over, but it's all good.
It happens. All right. So yeah, Josh Connerly was our pick at 31. For those who weren't aware, it was between him and Zabel were like the top two tackles that were still available. So I think that's a perfect pick for them. Next up, the Chiefs are at 63.
Yeah.
And to me,
I saw a name there.
What is it?
I saw a name there. That keep going.
Yeah.
There, right there. Yeah. I don't think Trevor Henderson's going to be there, but if he is, that would be spicy in this offense.
I agree. And if there's anyone that can scheme up a type of guy like that, it's Andy Reid. And so, Travion, he's not going to be someone who's going to run the ball 20, 30 times a game. He's just not built like that. But he is one of the most efficient runners. He's great against pass protection. He's great against actual, getting routes. And so I think he'd be perfect.
Well, was there somebody else that you were looking at, though, that you liked at that spot, by the way?
It is someone we can take at the 63 spot. I know we don't love Shamar Turner. He may be – actually, we could go Collins again. He is really good against the run, and that's something they kind of desperately need for now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah. And then, Chris Paul, I want to get him. They don't really need him, but
I know they don't need him. I love Chris Paul, man. I would love for the Broncos to get him.
No, he's great. But yeah, Collins, I think, would be a perfect way of addressing the needs that they do have. And then at the 95 spot, there's a multitude of ways we can go.
Awesome.
Savion Williams is there. Lathan Ransom is there. We already talked about their safety situation not being amazing. So I do like either of these two guys, but Charles Grant could be a guy to shore up their guard spot if they want to move him into guard. It's really up to you.
I think this could be a year where they just really unload on trenches, man. I think Charles Grant would be good because it gives them flexibility, right? He can play, tackle. He can also play interior, right? And so with Connerly drafting him already, bring in two guys like this offensive line is a serious need. And I can't imagine after what happened in the Super Bowl and then what happened in free agency that they don't heavily address this.
Yeah, because what's so interesting is last time that they got destroyed in the Super Bowl was by the Buccaneers. Whenever their Buccaneers defensive line was just straight up so much better than the Chiefs offensive line. And they spent almost every asset they had in free agency and in the draft to make that significantly better. And they didn't really do that much this season in the offseason so far. Whenever your best guy is going to be some random journeyman tackle, things just don't look so good there. And so I'm perfectly fine with losing a lot of draft.
Fifth round pick, journeyman tackle, Jalen Moore. I mean,
yeah, that should not be your marquee signing.
Yeah, especially with the fact that he got $15 million also as a tackle on the open market, doesn't bode well either that he's was well sought
100%.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have some guys available. I think we are pretty fine on offensive line for now, but Savion Jones is still there. He's an edge rusher out of LSU. I do like him quite a bit. There is Jarquise Hunter if we want to double dip. Billy Bowman.
Yeah, I'm good taking a chance, maybe hoping that Billy Bowman maybe comes back. I don't think he will, but I'm good. I'll defer to you on this pick here. Whatever you like.
Probably the best guy available still is Quindarius Robinson. A really good pass rusher. He's fine against the run. He's 6'5", 241, so more of the kind of smaller edge rusher build, at least in terms of weight. But I think he's going to be a fine pick here. And it's fourth round. You're really just taking flyers and guys you like a lot, and I do like him quite a bit. So
hard to pass up on a starter out of Alabama.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we have three more picks. One is going to be, I think all three are actually in the seventh round.
Yeah, pretty late.
Yeah. So it's really just take guys you like. Thornton goes to the Broncos again.
Manifest it.
Yeah.
Got to manifest it.
Absolutely. All right. Next up, I mean, I think this would be a good opportunity to go tight end. I don't know if there's any guy you like the best, maybe Gadsden, just because as good as Travis Kelce is, he's, I think, 35, 36. He's not young anymore. And so I think he could be fine. Is there a tight end you like the most?
Yeah, I like
these guys?
Yeah, I like Gadsden. I think this is Kelce's last ride.
Yeah. All right. 251, 257 is what we have next. Will Shepherd goes. And in here, it's just take a bunch of flyers.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about these guys.
Who's at safety? Who do we have at safety?
The safety, you said?
I was gonna say who do we have at safety? We didn't take
we're not looking too great at safety right now. Safety was Jaden Hicks and Brian Cook, so probably should have addressed it a little bit earlier. But
but there wasn't there no need to reach either. Who do they have?
Quite work out. Dante Trader.
Yeah, maybe Hancock.
Don't know who this is, but good against forcing incompletions. And then Hancock. I mean, we can double dip at safety, honestly.
That's fine.
And then
Hancock's right there.
Yep, perfect. All right,
Beautiful.
So what grade do you think we got in this draft?
I'd say a B. I'd say
okay.
a B. Yeah, I'd say a B.
I'm gonna go B plus.
Okay.
Let's see what we got. I'm very surprised. I guess Demetrius Knight is higher on their board, but to me, Travion is he's so special. He's like a modern day Aaron Jones, and that's something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Travion. Yeah, look at that.
4.
I don't think Henderson's there at 63. I don't know. I think
there's like some mocks having him go in the first round.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll go first. I think he'll go early second. Is likely where I see him going.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on, and thank you for doing this draft. Are there any kind of overwhelming things we may have learned in doing an exercise like this?
No, I think you summed it up well. The perfect thing is this is an exercise, right? I mean, this is all about fun. This is all about analyzing. Hopefully anybody that did watch or listen got a little bit better of an understanding of the teams in the AFC West. I think you did a great job breaking it down, but these are fun, man. I'm excited to see the last few that you come out with. I know you're doing a couple more.
Yes. Well, this is Analytics with Asa, and thank you for listening.